Oh, hello? How's everyone doing? Alright, I'm just gonna get the music started and then we can start shitting on some new test. Ooh, that's a bit loud. Let me check the audio values on that. Yeah, it looks alright. Okay. 8values. What is 8values? 8values is, in essence, a political quiz that attempts to assign percentages for 8 different political values. You will be presented a statement and then you will answer with your opinion on the statement from strongly agree to strongly disagree, with each answer slightly affecting your scores. I think, yeah, okay, it's just normal. Got it. Why are they presenting it like there's some time limit? Okay. Oppression by corporations is more of a concern than oppression by governments. I would say no, but at the same time, like, the problem is on one hand, like, oppression by governments is more important because governments typically have like a wider range, right? And are stronger, and you have to, and there's much less agency when it comes to being under a government as opposed to being in a corporation. But on the other hand, governments are controlled by democracy, right? So yeah, this is a really bad question because it's trying to say like no, actually it's 8values, it's not left or right. Okay, my bad. All right, so I would disagree, but at the same time, oppression of corporations is still important. It is necessary for the government to intervene in the economy to protect consumers. Yeah, obviously. The freer the markets, the freer the people. No. It is better to maintain a balanced budget than to ensure welfare for all citizens. I'm bad at economics, but from what I know, probably not. Like the issue is that I don't think anyone who's arguing for welfare for all citizens is just saying we should just spend more, right? But like at the same time, so that's the issue. Oh, freaking ads.
Skipping rope over 12,000 times.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess for now, I think it's more important to ensure welfare because we're going into a recession, so higher spending is important. So I disagree here. Okay, hopefully, is that all done? Yes? What? Okay. Alright, hopefully... Okay, publicly funded research is more beneficial to the people than leaving it to the market. I mean, I think research in general... I would say, yeah, but it can't be like solely, there can't only be publicly funded research because that would lead to bias, right? So for example, people wouldn't want to come out with statistics and stuff against the current government because that would like obviously hurt them, like Reagan era type shit, right? If there's too much control over scientific research, that's also bad. Tariffs on international trade are important to encourage local production. I would strongly disagree because for the most part, except in situations where we have like infant industries, don't actually help really. I think overall, I think every economics considers it better to, yeah. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. Okay, it's flipping between the problem is it's hard to like think about these things sometimes. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. I wouldn't say that this latter part is necessarily should necessarily happen, like forcing people to like produce and like completely complete redistribution like this isn't, I don't think would be good. It'll lead to like bad outcomes because people like will have less incentive to produce. So I'd say disagree. It would be best if social programs are abolished in favor of private. No, what? Okay. Taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. Yeah, I mean it benefits the rich as well. So yeah, that's the thing. The only like issue I feel with increasing taxes significantly is it further incentivizes tax evasion. But it seems like for rich people they do it anyway, so it doesn't like it's not like increasing it more is going to like increase tax evasion, probably. Inheritance is a legitimate form of wealth. Legitimate? I think considering inheritance legitimate, because if we like don't consider inheritance legitimate, then people will be encouraged to spend everything by the time they die, because inheritance it's just going to be redistributed, so there's no point, right? And that would that increases, what is this called? A devaluation of the future economic concept. No, this isn't there. Basically, they don't want to spend that would cause like inflation, but on the other hand, it literally isn't, so I'll just put neutral. Basic utilities like roads and electricity should be publicly owned. Yeah, I would agree, because like especially roads, like there's the whole issue of like public goods, right? What are the define public good? It's, what is this? No, they're not using the, okay, yeah, non-excludable and non-rivalrous, which is why private corporations wouldn't produce them. Government intervention is a threat to the economy. No, not. I mean, it can be. Like, what does that mean? I think overall it can be done well. Like, I guess the implication here would be that like government intervention always like hurts the economy, which isn't always true. Those with the greater ability to pay should receive better health care. This is actually a really tough one, because on one hand, like, if people who are willing to pay more for better healthcare, that'll encourage better healthcare, right? Rather than just enough. But on the other hand, like, if you don't allow people with greater ability to pay it, they would try to support like the free healthcare industry and stuff, so that way they don't like get completely screwed, right? So I just put neutral. Quality education is a right of all people. Yeah, I would agree. I think all people should be educated. It means that you're getting the economy stuff. Should belong to the workers who use them? I think probably not. United Nations should be abolished. I mean, I don't know that much about the United Nations, but from what I do know, like, seems like they do some good work and stuff, and having like a sort of collective collective thing is like helpful. So I'll just put disagree. Military action by our nation is often necessary to protect it. Often necessary. I wouldn't say it depends on the nation, right? Like, so for some nations, yeah, it's very important that you protect it and stuff. Oh, yeah, oops. Okay. But for other nations, not really, right? But I'll just do this in context of the United States. I would say disagree. Actually, neutral, because like, depends on what you mean by protect. Like, to literally stop people from invading, that's not really happening, right? And it probably isn't gonna happen, even if like we reduce our military spending. But on the other hand, like if we say protect it economically, then yeah, sure, because you don't want you want to be able to influence certain areas and things like that, so as to not completely leave the influence to places like China or Russia. I'll just put They support regional unions such as the European Union. For the most part, yeah. It's important to maintain our national sovereignty. What does this mean? Like, national sovereignty. The supreme, absolute, and uncontrollable power by which an independent state is governed, and from basically being independent and not, I guess, on one hand, yeah, it's important that you maintain that, like, the country, like, maintains its own laws and stuff, but the problem is that, obviously, I don't think it's, if we're able, like, entering into agreements like the Paris Climate Treaty, is it Paris Climate Treaty or whatever, those type of things, I feel they're not necessarily a threat to our national sovereignty, so I'll just put disagree. A united world government would be beneficial to mankind. I don't think so. Because, like, I feel like having one world government, it would make it really hard for other things to be kept in check and stuff. Like, I feel like it could evolve into like a fascist type thing really easily. So yeah. What is the 8values test? Basically, it's a test which measures your political alignment along 8 different values, like tradition, global, tradition, nationalism, and things like that. Also, high sushi. It is more important to retain peaceful relations than to further our strength. Again, the problem is that we're saying that like peaceful relations is a form of strength, right? Like if you have a ton of allies, that's like strong. Like the same way that like if you have a bunch of friends who will like beat up like your bullies or whatever, that also like makes you strong. So I don't know. I feel like I would probably agree that it's more important to do this, especially in today's political environment. Wars do not need to be justified to other countries. I think that so what will the final result come as? They'll give you 8 different values, and they'll give you like where you are between 2 different axes on that value. Like, are you a traditionalist or are you like progressive type? And they'll give you an estimate of what your actual politics are. Do not need to be justified to other countries. No, I don't. I think they should typically. Like, obviously not every country, but they should. Military spending is a waste of money. Not necessarily. In the United States case, it is like a lot of the money is wasted, but it's not inherently a waste of money. I think I would put neutral because actually, I disagree. Yeah. International aid is a waste of money. No, I mean helping like other countries in our like globalist economy, that's like really important, right? So like for example, like yeah, no problem. So like for example, like if international aid is actually like, what do you call this? Helping people, right? Helping other countries. Maybe in the future we can actually, produce something and we can actually trade with them and things like that. So no, it's not a waste of money. My nation is great. I don't think. I think the thing this is trying to point to is that because it's my nation, I believe that it's great. So I would disagree. Yeah. Research should be conducted on an international scale. I mean, not always, but it should probably. Cooperating between countries and stuff is obviously helpful for the spreading of knowledge and things like that. So, 3. Government should be accountable to the international community. I think in the current situation of the international community, for the most part, yeah. But at the same time, it's important to respect their like, I guess, states' rights or whatever. That sounds like such a dog whistle. It's not. Even when protesting an authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. No, disagree. What? My religious values should be spread as much as possible. No, I mean, I don't really have that many religious values, right? At the same time, like, having some sort of unified values and things like that, it can be helpful, so I would just put disagree. Our nation's values should be spread as much as possible. Within the nation, sure, but, not necessarily outside and things like that. Like, that's what we do with, like, assimilation and things. But obviously the issue comes where people define our nation's values as, like, homophobia or something, so let's put disagree. No, I'll put neutral. It is very important to maintain law and order. This is actually a hard one because, like, yeah, it's important, but at the same time, there are, like, that always comes at a cost to liberty. For the most part, I lean on the liberty side, but that just might just be my privilege speaking. The general populace makes poor decisions. Do you have any commands? No, I need to set all that stuff up, but for now, I don't really have any commands. The general populace makes poor decisions. This is probably true. Like, most of the populace aren't really, like, necessarily that well educated. I think there was U.S. climate change polling. Like, while most people in the public, I don't know if this is like the correct thing, but most people would agree that yes, we should reduce the effects of global climate change. When we actually talk about specific policy points, they don't they'll just won't agree, right? They'll suddenly turn and say no. So that's just one example. But yeah, I would probably agree. But I wouldn't say that that's like justification for ending democracy or something, because I think the idea behind democracy is that you can't. It would make like a large majority of people very uncomfortable to not have any say in their political decision making. And like even if like other people are more competent, like why should I trust them? And like giving power into those people's hands can easily be corrupted in like many different ways. Yeah, and also I think like if education is improved, then general populace would make better decisions. Yeah, probably. I mean, not. I guess in some cases, I don't think it should be allowed in most, because I feel like people killing themselves should be like a very like should be heavily discouraged, right? But in some cases, like in like for example, like in cases of like terminal illness, which is like really painful for people and stuff, so probably just put a light agree. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is necessary to protect us from acts of terrorism. Ooh, okay. Like the problem is some civil liberties is such a vague term. Like, yeah, sure, something has to be like sacrificed, right? Like you sacrifice your ability to not be checked when you go to the airport, right? But at the same time, like I feel like in the current system, we've probably gone too far in that regard, because a lot of the civil liberties which we've curbed don't actually help that much in protecting us from acts of terrorism. So I'd put a light disagree. Government surveillance is necessary in the modern world. Depends on what you mean by surveillance again, but I'd probably say no. Like, I feel like preserving freedom of speech and things like that is more important. The very existence of the state is a threat to our liberty. Well, technically, yeah, like, of course, like, having a state where you agree to, like, rules and things like that is, but I would say that it's probably more beneficial to have a state as opposed to not have. I guess the issue with the 8 values thing is it's very, like, deontological, like, everything is about, oh, do you value liberty, oh, do you value this, which I guess I probably got myself into, but, I guess the issue I face is that, like, I think more in terms of consequentialism, so I wouldn't really think, oh, is it a threat to our liberty or not? I would just say, oh, do the benefits outweigh the consequences? So I would say neutral, whatever. Yeah, regardless of political, is it important to side with your country? No. Why would you do that? You want, like, in a democratic system, you want to, like, convert your country to a better thing. Why would you do that? Oh, that's stupid. All authority should be questioned. Yeah, but questioned. Yeah, I guess I would agree, but I'll put strongly agree. But the problem is, one thing is that a lot of people can question, like, unnecessarily. Like, so for example, citing like PhD researchers and things like that when you don't really have the expertise is technically an appeal to authority. But the problem is that in this case, our authority is predicated like that person has authority because they're have knowledge in that field, right? So, but I feel like sometimes people would use this to discredit expertise. But at the same time, I think I would put it. A hierarchical state is best. Okay. I don't know why it is the best. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's the best, but I feel like it's it's probably the most efficient way of doing things. But at the same time, like, I don't know if it necessarily would maximize happiness, so I'll put a light agree. It's important that a government follows the majority opinion, even if it is wrong. I would probably say, because that's the point behind democracy, right? That the government follows the majority opinion no matter what. But again, that can be like a dangerous road to go down. I think because like the government should follow the majority values, but like it should reason about those values better than they would reason about better than it would reason about it would reason about this thing than like the general populace would. The stronger the leadership, the better. What does stronger mean here? Because like if they're smarter, if they're better able to make decisions, sure. But like if it's just like, oh, I don't ever break down or something like that, like then maybe not. But yeah, overall, I'll just put a slight agree. Yeah, democracy is more than a decision-making process. Yeah, I think the idea behind democracy is that democracy firstly requires certain important things, like one being that hey, you should not I guess cancel people. No, you should not obfuscate information. You should have a wide variety and plurality of information knowledge providing sources, right? So, and I think at its core, democracy is, as opposed to just a way of making decisions, it's a comforting promise to like its citizens that that they are in control. So, but at the same time, like at its core, like at the basic level, it is a decision-making process. But environmental regulations are essential, because there's no other way that we can stop the environment, because no one can like vote with their wallet because companies are too ubiquitous. And yeah, a better world will come from automation, science, and technology. I think but it needs to be carefully considered, because for example, like we need to be very careful when it comes to the economic and moral aspect of these technologies, or ethical aspects. So like for example, science can be like very scary, right, in the fact that it gives us so much more control, right? So for example, things like creating, one common thing is, if you could create a pill to fix people in that way, would it be moral to do so? Like, I would argue it probably wouldn't be, because at the end of the day, I feel like it'll be more beneficial and cost less if we were to be able to accept these people into society, right? Of course, like that's excluding things like pedophilia or something, so I'd put a light agree. Children should be educated in religious or traditional values. I don't think so, no. But at the same time, I think it's important that they learn some values and learn how to... Oh, what freaking ads? Why am I getting ads every... Okay. But basically, they should be educating... I don't think they should, but they need to have some value system which they can fall back on too. And I feel like engaging in tradition can be a very helpful thing for many people. At the same time, I would strongly disagree because of the specific religious or traditional values. Traditions are of no value on their own, light disagree, because at the same time, traditions can often reflect certain truths, but they need to be considered more carefully. Yeah. Why is this like... Okay, so disagree. Yeah, religion should play a role in government. No. Churches should be taxed the same way other institutions are taxed. I would say so, because like otherwise they'd have to Oh my god, why are there so many ads? Okay, geez, I'm trying to like go to the next thing in Spotify. Because otherwise they need to act like in accordance with government values, not discriminating against gay people and things like that. But they don't, so they should be taxed. Yeah. Yeah, but they should. Climate change is currently one of the greatest threats. Yep. It's important that we work as a united world to combat climate change. I don't know how important it is if everyone's doing like different benefits, different like processes. I think at the same time we might still combat climate change, but it's still important that unified efforts are obviously much more productive. But it's not like, oh, everybody should be doing like the same thing. It's not like that either. No. How? There's no way like society was better. Like maybe in like the short term, right? Like, oh, there's a recession now, but before there wasn't. But many years ago now. It's important that we maintain the traditions of our past. No, strong disagree. Actually, I would put light disagree, because like in some cases it is important to respect like tradition in a certain regard. I feel like there's a certain cohesiveness to society that comes with it, and a certain sense of identity which can come with it. It's important that we think in the long term. Yeah, agree. I mean, I think if people do that, it'll be more beneficial. But at the same time, if they overvalue the future, then they'll lead to more sadness in the present. Reason is more important than maintaining our culture. Yeah, but I guess it depends. Yeah, I guess I would just say yeah. Drug use should be legalized or decriminalized. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree that drug use should be decriminalized, but drug selling, like the selling of some drugs, should be still be criminalized. Like for example, like hard drugs like opiates or something, or like cocaine or something. Yeah. Same-sex, yeah. No cultures are superior to others. I would argue that having this belief can be harmful in that we're not able to judge the cultures of other countries and things like that. But at the same time, it's an important belief to have in order to respect other cultures. So I would still put a strongly degree. No, it's not immoral. If we accept migrants at all, it's important that they assimilate. Kind of, yeah, but I think at the same time, it's not like that big a deal either, because like assimilation happens, so it's not something we need to focus on. Abortion should be prohibited? No. Though I do have some doubts about it, so. Gun ownership should be prohibited for those without a valid reason. Probably, I guess valid reason is the problem, right? I think I would probably go, yes, we should be able to own guns. I'm not entirely sure about the data. Like some of the things show that, like, yes, the getting rid of guns is helpful, some of them don't. But at the same time, you'd also have to consider, like, hey, are there any other negative downsides towards not having guns, right? Like discomfort with like the government or things like that. But neutral. Support single payer. I don't think I support single payer. I'm not fully sure on, but universal healthcare for the most part I support. So I put light agree. Yeah, prostitution should be illegal. Probably not, though it should be like regulated pretty well, because I feel like regulating it would actually lead to less harm in the long run. And I don't think that there's anything necessarily immoral with sex work. Maintaining family values is essential? No. To chase progress at all costs is dangerous. What is this? I guess, yeah, you'd have to have ethical considerations, right? So, I would probably light disagree. But, like, it's not like that dangerous also. Genetic modification is a force for good, even on humans. Agree, but it has to be done carefully. Actually, no, maybe not. I'm not sure, actually. Maybe. We should open our borders to immigration. Yeah, I mean, everything I've seen has shown that it's like a beneficial thing for everybody. So, yeah. Government should be as concerned. No, because then you wouldn't feel like the government is for your people, right? At the same time, you want your government to feel moral, right? So it's not like they're just killing foreigners just because. So, light disagree. All people, regardless of factors like culture or sexuality, should be treated equally. Yep. It's important that we further my group's goals above all others. What does this mean? Like, this is such a non-question. Like, by my group, do they mean like my political group? Like, obviously, I think my political group's right? Or do they mean like my in-group, like my race or something? Ugh. I mean, this is such a non-question. Alright, let's see. Social. More towards equality, less towards markets. Diplomatic access. More towards world, less towards nation. Liberal. Civil access. Liberty as opposed to authority. Societal access. Very progressive as opposed to church. Yikes. Libertarian socialism. I would probably class myself as a sock dump, though. But yeah. Okay, cool. Maybe I should like post this. You can send these results like the image below. I'm gonna post this to Twitter just for like the nice like. Just finished the 8values test on stream. Say hi. Okay, and I plug this. And yeah, I would probably just. Oops. And then okay. But overall, it's not like too bad. I think it's better than the other political compass test. I feel like that one is kind of like not weak, maybe weak would be the word, but I'm not sure. But I feel like this is a bit more accurate, perhaps. There's some parts I would probably disagree with, like I'm not really for socialism, but other than that, I'm a top-down, which is pretty close, right? And I'm on the libertarian side. Yeah.